Standing up and starting with the up and down direction. Just gentle, really to experience this vertical axis. Up and the down, feeling it through the arms, but also right down through the legs, connecting with the earth, feeling into the earth below as we reach to the above. And then the left and the right. Again, just gentle, feeling it energetically. This is a way to gently and safely awaken energy sensitivity. Left side, right side. And then the front and back. Marveling at how our body can experience these different directions in space. We're so often unconscious or just subconscious of this. Now we're making it conscious. And then starting with small toroids. Up through the center, out to the periphery and back down. Just getting bigger and moving from the center out to the periphery. Feeling again how this structures our energy, develops our energy sensitivity. It's so nice to pay attention to our movements and nothing else. So often we're not paying attention to our movements, doing 8 things at once. Reversing the direction of the toroids, feeling the qualitative difference of that. Doing both directions at once, up and down. arms in that direction. Feel the difference. Awaken the intelligence of your subtle bodies. Maybe you're reading about these on one of the appendixes of the book. And then once again going up through the middle, center out to the periphery. Just letting your energy get organized and structured so you can hold consciousness. And bring your arms to a rest, your physical arms, but keep going with your invisible arms. That same flow gesture. And then take a seat in a meditative posture. And making sure your spine can be straight. It's good if you can have your knees below your hips. You might want to try either the floor or somewhere else so your knees are below your hips. It definitely helps. And closing the eyes, just being with natural nostril breathing. Being with the expansion and contraction of the lungs and heart. Just relaxing the body, relaxing the mind, and bringing your awareness to your center. Just ask, where is that center point, the center of centers within yourself? Just feel it, see it. Be with its stillness. Allowing the sense of the center to grow in your awareness as you put attention upon it. From that center point within yourself, ask which of the 6 directions to go in. Move out of the center and just move with your awareness there. Out from your center, beyond your body. Be in that space. Feeling your center and feeling this one direction at the same time. And how this can continue to enhance your sense of the center. And then moving back to the center. Just asking where that is. Rest your awareness there. And then moving in the opposite direction. Same axis. Feeling the space open up inside. Returning back to the center. And then asking for the next direction to move in. See what comes. Move your awareness that direction outside of the body. Again, feeling the space open up as you learn to move about in inner space. And coming back to the center. Just feeling this capacity to move around, move your awareness, use your mind in new ways. Move in the opposite direction, same axis. Feel that axis that runs through the center. Perhaps a sense of changing light, airiness. And coming back to the center, your center in spiritual space. And now moving in the next direction, asking what that is. Again, feeling the space change qualitatively, just enjoying that. A heightening of your sense of center. Coming back to the center. And continuing in the opposite direction. Completing our little journey from left, right, front, back, above and below. And returning to the center again. And from that center now feeling the space that has opened up in all directions. The 6 cardinal directions all around you, front, back, left, right, above, below. feeling the center and the circumference that surrounds the center, surrounds you. Feeling that spaciousness around you. And now asking for the color indigo to enter that space. Indigo. Being with the quality of indigo surrounding you, filling the space with its personality, its purity. And then from the indigo, asking for another color to come. See what color wants to come into your space to replace the indigo or be with the indigo, whichever. Just being with this new personality, its healing properties. And then asking again for another color to enter the space, see what comes. You can see it, or you might just get the idea of it, the word. Continue to develop your hue literacy. And from here we're going to invite one of three of the Oz characters, just one of the three, be it Glinda, the Good Witch, or the Wicked Witch, or the Not So Wonderful Wizard. See which one wants to come. Glinda, Good Witch, or Wizard. Again, it could just be the idea, or the visual, or the auditory. And just see what you see. Hear what you hear, feel what you feel with this character. Why has this character come? How are they at this time? Take another moment with this character, see if there's anything additional. Is there a second character that wants to come in? Just be free with what wants to be in the space. See it, hear it, feel it. And just being thankful for what came. Making a note of it. Bringing your awareness back to your center and inner space. Back to the color indigo and inner space. Allowing that indigo to wash through inner space. Holding your center. And you can bring your hands over your heart center as we begin to bring this mini oscope to a close. Again, just being thankful for what came, no judgment, just remembering it. And in the moment when we open our eyes, you can take some time with pencil and paper to write down what it was that came. So bringing your palms together when you're ready, rubbing them, creating friction and warmth. And cupping them gently over the eyes, fluttering the eyes. And when you're ready, open your eyes to journal or to draw your oscope. Okay, just another minute. Okay, welcome friends to this 6th evening of our class on manifesting, karma, dharma, Dreamtime, and the Archetypes of Oz. Good to see everybody here in the loft, there in Zoom. We're missing a few of our peoples. I don't know what happened to Julia or Armida. I know Jonah's watching it, and Dasha's watching the video, and Karen can't make it this week. I think Naomi has dropped out. Amy can't watch it live this week. Don't know where Zach is, or Jesse. So, yeah, hopefully these people are not being carried off by flying monkeys or under the spell of poppy fields, which is entirely possible. Entirely possible that people get dragged away from participating in this. I have been running workshops and classes and gatherings for 30 years plus, and I've seen a lot of things, how people get tripped off the yellow brick road by side distractions. And it's not my place to judge, but I'm just here to hold space, to love, to teach, to share. But we do have to be wary of the dangers that would pull us away and basically rip us off. Because, yeah, we don't want to have incomplete knowledge about things, and I hope you're keeping up with the reading and appreciating how this book crescendos. It keeps adding more and more pieces to the puzzle. Some big pieces landed in these next 2 chapters from this past week. But before we get there, let's just open up the circle to see if there's any comments about the opening set. We did another mini Oz scope, things along those lines. We can talk about dyads during the week later, but anybody want to share from the opening set, things that came through, questions or comments? well, I will share. I got the wizard. The wizard came through, and he looked like he was kind of imploding, dissolving. He was disjointed. He looked very kind of small. He looked like W.C. Fields, if you know who he was. He was an actor that kind of looked wizardly. But yeah, he was dissolving. There was this sense of him dissolving. And I was just, when you see that, it's not like a pretty thing, Often we see things that are puzzling and not so pretty. But I sat with it and it's like, okay, what's that about? Because it's not only a right brain exercise, as you maybe seen with the oscilloscope, we do go right brain kind of shamanic in this realm of the imagination, which is really, really important for our evolution, to evolve that capacity which we've lost. Our ancestors had this more visual capacity, but also the left brain that we've developed the past few hundred years, the rationale, the intellect, that can bring some reasoning to this. And what came through for me was there is this dissolving of this aspect of myself, of Jesse, really dissolving illusions about myself, old ways, old ideas, old identifications. And the light went on. It's like, oh, that perfectly fits with my outer Kansas, what's going on, because I am really currently letting go of old ways of seeing myself. And I'm actually getting ready to purge a lot of stuff here in the loft. Not the cool stuff, don't worry about that. But stuff behind the wall. I've got stuff from childhood here that it's time to let go. Things of my mother's and whatnot. I mean, she's been dead for 15 years. It's like, okay, I need to let go of some of that earthly identification, because then it's going to make room for more identity as a spiritual being that's transcendental, that's beyond being this white male Canadian, blah, 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 that's got this eternal aspect. And I've been working up to this, and it's been coming in stronger lately to dissolve some of this. And then when I asked if there was a second being that wanted to come in, a second character, Glinda came in. And she didn't look like Glinda in the movie. She looked more like this magical fairy being that was fanning the wizard with her wings, vibrations and air currents. And that was kind of cool. She was hovering over this dissolving wizard. And it really connected to something I learned over the weekend about bees and how bees fan the nectar that they gather in the hive. They fan it with air and vibration, and it brings about this metamorphosis into honey. And I thought, oh, okay, so I've got some of this Glinda energy, this higher wisdom is fanning my melting wizard, but it's a metamorphosis that's taking place. And I thought, wow, that just fits so well. It's so beautiful. It took a while for me to kind of get through to that understanding. We were doing this for 7-8 minutes, and but that's just an example of the sort of thing that can come through for you. And it's always going to be unique to you. But it's okay to think about it as well as receive it. We get into that receptive state as we did, building the bubble, bringing in the colors. We get very receptive. We get our brain on a different frequency to receive, because we're going into the Dreamtime, right? Dreamtime is more the alpha state, theta state. You want to be able to go into those brainwave frequencies. That's why you don't want to be drinking a coffee before doing an Ozscape, because the coffee, the caffeine will up your brain frequencies, up your heart rate. You will not be able to sink deep into it. But when you sink deep into it and you are receptive, but you can also be active with this thinking side. Because really we're using our thinking, our feeling, and our willing when we're doing an Ozscope. We're using our Scarecrow, our Tin Man and Lion, and our Dorothy. We're using all those parts when we're doing an Ozscope. That's one of the amazing things about the Ozscope, is that you're actually engaging more parts of yourself to look at the parts of yourself. And I know for some of you, you're struggling with this, and we'll talk about that tonight. But the struggle is great. The struggle is showing you the parts of you that need more strengthening, the parts of you that need to be brought more on board and integrated. It's showing you where you are on the Oz map of evolution. Yeah. So, any questions or comments, or anyone else like to share the little piece that came through? Okay, Lindsay?
I was greeted by Glinda, and Glinda for me represented a kind of like divine, mothering, like feminine archetype there, and just like very caring and nurturing, and I felt like she was looking out for me and checking in, taking care of me when I was down, lost, or uncertain. I feel like in the work that I do, and even with my colleagues, because some of them are younger than I am, and I can put on that kind of persona with them. I can like be very like nurturing and caring, and so in my scope today, just because there's been some like emotional moments at work lately, I felt like she was checking in with me, which felt nice, and just having that reflection. And I know they're all like archetypes of ourselves too, so it's like checking in with myself. And I had the Wicked Witch appear, who like represented taking me off course a little bit. I've been like,
so first you had Glinda, and then the Wicked Witch came in.
Yeah.
Today. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you feel like the Wicked Witch has been taking you off course a little bit.
Yeah, into my like negative mind.
Negative mind.
And so, yeah. And so I wrote like a lesson to be loving and to receive love towards myself and from others too. To be gentle and look after myself, and like be strong with softness. I wrote because I think there can be like that strength and caring that comes from this very nurturing aspect, but it can also take strength sometimes to engage with that and kind of combat that Wicked Witch in a way.
Mm-hmm. Realizing that you need to combat that Wicked Witch and the negative thoughts that can appear in the mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that like care. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, that's an alchemical interaction that just took place within you, within consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel now?
Good. I also took a moment after to reflect on like some of the kindness that I've received in my life as well, and like having that come in from the outside. So it just assisted with the recognition of love that is already around me. Just intentionally directing that towards the tender parts of self. So recognizing it's there.
So in a way, like being the Glinda to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Affirming these positive things to counteract the negative things, which is archetypal to the journey. There's going to be negativity. Can we counteract it with positivity? Can we be the Glinda to ourselves when we're being the Wicked Witch to ourselves, or somebody else is being the Wicked Witch to ourselves? We don't have to wait for somebody else to be the Glinda for ourselves. We can take on that role. That's part of what we're going to look at tonight, this parenting we need to do for ourselves.
Yeah.
There's no waiting.
An intentional practice.
Intentional practice. Yeah. No waiting.
Yeah. A habit. A habit to be self-loving.
Make it a habit. Nice. Thank you, Lindsay.
I'd like to share.
A question on just like Ozscope more generally. Like, how much of what somebody experiences should be conscious versus unconscious? Like sometimes, for example, if you just know that you need courage to do what you need to do, and you just kind of force the lion into the view because that's what you want to see. Like, is that still effective, or are we trying to just like get into this non-thinking state? And also, like, what about people who don't know anything about the Wizard of Oz? Like, would they be able to effectively receive this modality, or do you kind of have to have some conscious understanding?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that this evening, because I've done hundreds of Ozscopes with people, and this was even before the book was written, so it's not like they had read the book. It was just like, hey, I'm doing this Ozscope thing, would you like to do it?
But they'd seen the movie, presumably.
Not always.
Okay.
I would just maybe give a brief description of things. But, part of them knows the archetypes. There's a part of all of us knows these archetypes because they're part of the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung calls them. So that's the answer to your third question. This can be done really with anybody because they have an imagination and they have stuff that wants to come through. But let's go back. What was your first and second question?
Like, how much should we try to, or like, what happens when we insert a conscious desire to see a certain archetype versus receiving in like this kind of hypnotic state?
We can set an intention. Like you mentioned the lion. It's like, okay, I want to look at my courage. I want to see what's going on in my will. So you set that as an intention before going in, and then see what comes. You don't know. We can't force it, but we can put in a request. And I get into that in the reading this coming week about how the lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow could represent other parts of us than the thinking, feeling, and willing. There's actually two different ways to use those characters as windows unto ourselves. I won't go into details because you're going to read it this week. But the depths of the human mind are amazing. They really, there's so much wisdom, so much knowing beyond this little tip of the iceberg. I'm pointing to my head, but really, our conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg of the great unconsciousness that we hold. And we're trying to make the great unconsciousness more conscious. So this is one way to do it. This is a playful way that's blending the duality of the intellect and the imagination. So was there another part to your question?
Not really. Like, it was just trying to understand, like, if some people are, like, either unaware of the archetypes or perhaps not as receptive imaginatively to the subconscious, like how this modality would work for them.
Well, we'll talk about that when we look at the frequently asked questions from the reading list last week. Ray, you got your hand up. You need to mute or unmute.
Can you hear me?
Let's see. I'm still not hearing
Hold
you.
on one
Maybe I
second.
need to change my speaker.
Check the mic.
We can hear you.
Got you now.
Okay. I was like,
I've been
all right.
trying to do this on the.
It's gonna echo if you do the TV.
Try speaking.
I'm speaking now.
Yes, yes.
I don't know what happened. Anyways, we can hear you.
Okay. Cool. Oh, thanks for listening. My oscope was very interesting. At first, I was kind of like, oh man, I kept going unconscious, you know? I was like, oh, this oscope sucked. Like, I don't know what was happening. But then I remembered more of it before I went unconscious. And basically, it was like Glinda came, and I remember having the sense that I was like, oh, she's kind of a badass. Like, she's all like sweet and stuff, but she's not innocent per se. Like, she's really wise. Like, she kind of has a like, oh, really, dear, you know, kind of like wink, wink. Like, she just knows what's up. She's like a cool lady, you know what I mean? And so that was interesting. Because the sweetness of her character, at least in the movie, you know, is really apparent. But the little twinkle in her eye of like knowing something, you know, that's there, I really kind of saw that. And then I saw the wizard was sort of like hanging out in the background, and I was like, oh no, I was like, is this really Glinda that's here, or is this the wizard's creation? You know, making a Glinda. So that was interesting. And then I went unconscious. Like, and then I was like in a dream, within a dream sort of, because I remember like little parts, something about money problems, like someone's hiding money problems. And I'm like, oh my God, is that me? Who is this someone? And then like my first love, like childhood best friend showed up, and she kind of I don't know, there's something unresolved there between us. It's weird, but yeah, it was just kind of like this tumbling feeling, or feeling like I was losing consciousness. And so I was just reflecting on that, and how I've been going through a lot of like life is representing me with things like options, choices, and scenarios and patterns that I'm like able to like see. I just had like a big like kind of like realization in my life around a pattern that was playing out that I didn't quite see before. And yeah, I just thought it was interesting around the like Luciferic forces, if you want to put it that way, of the wizard, the illusory kind of things, you know, stepping in and taking the place of your own higher self or whatever. And so I was like, oh, I lost consciousness like in this oscope, and I kind of feel like I lost consciousness a little bit for like a week or so, like just a little bit, not totally, but like definitely was in a loop-de-loop of some kind that I had to really will myself to stay awake within.
Yeah, this is great, Ray, because, you know, you're really expressing the default for really all of humanity is under the influences of these different forces. And as we'll see tonight in chapter 9, you know, the influences of evil that don't want us to be centered balanced, and have the ability to hold consciousness. That evil forces would like to be in place of our higher consciousness. And I had that at age 20 with, I mentioned this in the Tantra class. I won't go into details here, but how other forces usurped my connection to my own higher self as an imposter. And I was following the wrong voice. And this is the default, really, for humanity, is that we are not free. That we have to work at attaining our own freedom. To build ourselves, to build our center, to build our balance as a self-stylized, evolutionary, loving fashionista. And yeah, we got a fight on our hands to do that, as Dorothy did. She was naive. She was not knowing. She was ignorant. And she was vulnerable. And the journey was an awakening to her own power. When Glinda says, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" She goes, "What are you talking about? I'm not a witch. I don't have any power. I'm just Dorothy Gale from Kansas. That's all I am." And I'm going through that now. It's like, I'm not just Jesse Stewart from Toronto. I'm a cosmic being. And I'm dissolving my wizard who holds these illusions. And that's an evil force, really, to keep me under illusions as to who I really am. And yeah, with this thing about falling asleep, going deep down, losing consciousness, but you're getting little snippets of things there that you need to work on, perhaps. Like this friend from childhood, you feel there's something unresolved. Well, that may be something that is an assignment for you. That Glinda's showing you. You've got an assignment here to go and clear some stuff in Kansas. And that'll help clear some things in Oz. As in Oz, so in Kansas. But when we do things in Kansas, that can affect things in Oz.
I kind of feel like she was kind of very wizardly towards me, the childhood friend that I'm talking about. So I don't know if connecting with her directly is like a good idea. I was like super connected in an unhealthy way, maybe, and have since. But maybe I could do some art around it or journaling or something.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting anything about what you should do, because I don't know. But what I would suggest is keep doing more Ozscopes and strengthen that ability to go into the Dreamtime and access more information about yourself and guidance from your own higher self. And every time you do an Ozscope, you're using those parts of yourself. So it's going to be building a centeredness and a balance and consciousness. It's not just about playing with fairy tales, it's about evolving all of your capacities simultaneously and integrating them.
So with the what you mentioned about doing some stuff in Kansas, I have it right that we can do things in Kansas that affect Oz and vice versa?
Yes, exactly.
And it's okay to work things out in Kansas, to like taking action in Kansas to try to work with what we saw in Oz. That's recommended.
Yeah, it really is about action. It's not just about sitting around thinking about things, but it is about action, and that's what the word karma means. So karma is from the actions that we've taken in the past, and we have to continue to take actions. Every day you get up, you're taking actions, but you're going to direct your actions with more consciousness, under higher guidance, and that will resolve karma and get you more in connection and alignment with Dharma, the cosmic balance of things. But yeah, see, the two sides are connected. Here's the circle. We're going to actually get to this next week in the reading about, the circle of oneness, but we experience life in this dualistic way. But it's all still everything that was contained in the oneness. It's all still there, but it's divided into two-ness, into duality.
What makes it do that flippy flop?
That is just the nature of our experience at this time. But as you'll see in the reading this week, we can bring it back to this within ourselves. That's part of the individual journey, to be an individual, which you read this week. To be an individual means not divided in two, but to be whole and one. But we experience our lives in duality, even with daytime and nighttime. You've got your day life, and believe it or not, you have a night life, but you're unconscious of it. But it's part of the wholeness. We want to make that side conscious, and the Ozscope is a way to do that, because we're doing waking dreaming. We're not doing nighttime dreaming where you lie down, you go to sleep, and you have all these images come. We're doing waking dreaming. You're doing dreaming while you're awake, and this is why the Ozscope is so evolutionary. It's learning how to stay awake while being in the dream time. This is the way we need to evolve if we're going to access info energy as spiritual beings.
Is that the purpose of the color visualization? Is that to transition you into a dreaming state?
Yes. The purpose of the color exercise is exactly that. It's transitioning us into accessing things on the other side. Because if you've ever done, for example, psychedelics, which I've tried when I went to the Amazon and did ayahuasca, several drinks of ayahuasca, and the colors were amazing, and the patterns were amazing, the imagery was amazing, but my eyes were closed because I was going to the source of colors. So when we do these color exercises, it's taking you more to the source of all manifestation. So if you really want to have control over what you manifest, you have to go to the source and work with the archetypes. Colors are archetypes. Colors are archetypes. Red is, one expression of spiritual intelligence. Orange different, yellow different, green different. These are all source code things that we can work with in self-creation.
And so what is the relationship between Ozscopes and manifestation?
The relationship between Ozscopes and manifestation? Well, the Ozscope is showing you why you're manifesting what you're manifesting. It shows you the source code that's behind what you're creating out here, consciously or mostly unconsciously.
So then those answers must live in the subconscious then.
The answers live in the subconscious. And the Ozscope helps to make them conscious. That help? Yeah. The relationship between the Ozscope and manifestation.
That's why you chose to put these things together in the curriculum, right?
Yes.
You made this course and you decided to have Oz be such a critical part of it. And that's because you think that the biggest roadblock to manifestation is subconscious, I guess, forces.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I wrote this book 30 years ago, I never once used the word manifestation in it. But that's the buzzword now. Everybody's into manifesting and creating their reality. And then I realized, oh, that's what I was talking about 30 years ago, about what's in your subconscious, what's, the way you are configured, which is mostly unconscious, is manifesting all the time. There's no, oh, I'm going to manifest something. It's like you are manifesting all the time. This is why I'm approaching this a little bit differently than in the New Age movement that talks about, oh, okay, let's create your own reality. Let's like do some storyboarding of what you want to create, and that's fine. I mean, that is a power tool, but we want to get a handle on really how the depths of our configuration is already manifesting, and we want to understand why, so we can deal with the karmic aspect of our lives and not just come in like a bull in a china shop and saying, oh, I'm going to manifest $1 million and a Ferrari and a mansion in France, and because it can easily devolve into egotism and black magic and backfire in the long run. So self-knowledge really is the most important knowledge to have. It's also the hardest knowledge to acquire, because we're fooling ourselves all the time. I'm fooling myself right now with, my wizardly side is identifying as just this, and I'm needing to divest and dissolve that to make more space for an expanded self to come through. Yeah.
So the wizardly side, it doesn't always. It's not always pumping you up like you're the most amazing thing ever. It also can be like, you're just this, like, yeah, like the illusions can be. They don't have to be grandiose. In other words, they can also be like the opposites.
Yes, exactly. This is when we're really starting to understand this wizard side. It's not just the grandiose wizard. It's about, illusion, and how that is one side of evil. Right? I talk about that in chapter 9 about the witch and the wizard being Dorothy's shadow side. The shadow side, in essence, is really the unconscious or the subconscious. It's what parts of ourselves we have not made conscious. And if they're not made conscious, then they'll express as evil. This is where evil comes from, is when we're not acknowledging unconscious things, including our unconscious power. Like, I'm not fully recognizing my power, and that's this wizardly side that needs to be dissolved, because this is part of Jesse's shadow work, is to dissolve that illusion of who I am, so I can really actualize the truth of what is in my unconscious aspects, which is, a spiritual being with immense potential.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Because
Go ahead.
if the illusory nature of like powerlessness, like if you relegate your power to the unconscious, then you're like, it's easy to pretend that you're like a victim, which is just more of an illusion. And to claim the power is to say, I have all of this I'm responsible.
Some people get really offended by that concept.
Which concept?
The idea that they manifested their own misfortune. It's very offensive to some people. Because, they're like, how dare you suggest that I would bring this upon myself? But they don't realize that it's empowering because they're used to being in a state of victimhood, but it's also preposterous to insinuate that they manifested any of the terrible things that happened.
Yeah. Well, that is an interesting point, and let me address that. Because, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. When you talk about karma, people go, well, how could I possibly, have willed this, being raped or something horrible like that. I don't deal with that directly. I mean, just look at history. We probably all raped, murdered, killed, did all the things, over dozens and dozens of lives. For sure, we have all done these bad things. So, but I don't hammer that nail too hard because, for one, if people really want to do past life regression, they can do that. They can go back and they can explore who they were and the stuff they did and get self-knowledge that can help them understand why things are going on the way they are in this life. And I've had that. I've explored my past lives, and it's really helped me to understand some of the suffering that I've gone through. But what is an easier way and kind of roundabout way, instead of past life regression and all that, which can be a slippery slope, is the oscope. Just doing an oscope and seeing how you're configured with these 7 basic characters: Tin Man, Scarecrow, Lion, Dorothy at the center, Glinda as the guidance, higher guidance, and then the 2 sides of evil working, like I saw myself, there's still some of that wizard that's influencing me, and that's not good. So this is why I'm obviously very keen about the oscope. I feel for some people, it's a better route than trying to go into past life regression or going to some psychic who's going to tell them, oh yeah, you were Mary Magdalene, or you were Jesus' mother, or you were Jesus. Like there's probably about 20 people across the street in CAMH who think that they're Jesus. That's a mathematical impossibility. But that's the nature of the ego, and that's the nature of the wizard, to create these illusions. So this is why I'm very careful about going. I don't go for psychic readings. I do oscopes, and I learn to trust what comes through in my own mind, and I sit and I learn how to interpret these waking dreams that come through. It takes a while to develop the muscle and the confidence to work with information that comes this way. But it wants to come. Every night you got dreams coming through, all these disjointed images. So now, with waking dreaming, we're learning to organize that flow of information from the subconscious coming through in what I call the Ozphabet. Right? It's like an alphabet of characters. It's an Ozphabet, so we can understand the code, the dream code. How, if you read the chapter, you saw this weaving back and forth between the wizard and the witch, right? It's this lemniscate that's going back and forth between the 2 sides, and that could be considered just like a holding pattern.
Thank you, Ray.
Yes, thank you, Ray. That's it. Like initially we're like this, right? There's the lemniscate, the back and forth between the witch and the wizard. It could be just an endless looping. And a lot of people are just endlessly looping back and forth, and dualities are everywhere. It's just this back and forth between these things, but then we can break out of it And yes, Ray was showing, when we're following the guidance, the higher guidance, it will lead us to higher understanding. Not only higher understanding, but higher self-realization. We not only have greater understanding, we just become greater. The greater understanding makes us greater, because we're here to build ourselves with the right stuff. Yeah, and so just back to this thing about how out of this weaving of duality, instead of being forever caught in a loop, and we start to break out of that and we start to ascend in our consciousness, is by working with this duality, which could represent Father Sky, Mother Earth. As I mentioned in chapter 9, that's a common mythology, the marriage of Father Sky and Mother Earth gives birth to the Sun Child. And the story of Jesus the Christ is just one example of the Sun Child that is born out of this marriage of Father God and Mother Mary. And so the witch and the wizard can be representing these two sides, which I also refer to as the patriarchy and the matriarchy. Right? Like that there's a balance between patriarchy and matriarchy. There should be. The masculine and the feminine qualities giving birth to something in the middle, which shouldn't be anarchy. Patriarchy, matriarchy, and anarchy. Anarchy means without a leader. Anarchy, without leader. But we want to have a leader born out of the middle of the patriarchy and matriarchy. And that leader is the Dorothy in you. It's the self-stylizing, evolutionary, loving fashionista, which in a sense is neither the male or the female, but is this spiritual being who's androgynous. And this, of course, ties into the work we've been doing in the Tantric workshop about spiritual nature being androgynous. Archy is a power structure. Yeah, so anarchy is without some sort of structure. But we need structure. We need to structure the Dorothy in us. Otherwise, anarchy could just lead to chaos and destruction. So, yeah, this duality of the wizard and the witch represent really partners in creation. Partners in creation that lead from duality to individuality. As I mentioned earlier, individuality means not divided in two. In divi, duality, not divided in two. And this really requires living somewhat with creative tension. What Carl Jung calls creative tension of the opposites. And that's not easy for a lot of people to live with. A lot of people want it done instantly. Give me the pill that takes away my discomfort. Give me the answer. Where's the expert who can give the answer? No. Unfortunately, life on the yellow brick road means being able to live with a certain creative tension. And that is what moves you down that road of creativity. Anybody who's an artist knows that sense of creative tension. Hey, Ray? You're an artist. To live with a certain level of dissatisfaction that things aren't finished yet. Same with you, Laura. That's why you're at your place there. You have this creative tension. You want to get this book born. And there's this sense of unfinishedness that's okay to have that sense of unfinishedness. It drives us. And it's part of Dorothy's dilemma, right? Remember, I had that on the whiteboard where Dorothy's dilemma being the paradox of two things, wanting two things. She wanted to be in Kansas, she wanted to be over the rainbow. She's over the rainbow, she wants to be back in Kansas. We all live with this sense of dilemma and creative tension.
If only it was a desire for only two things, that would be less confusing than all of the others that are in there too.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, Laura, because out of two things can be born a third. And then another third, and another third, and another third. And then you realize, oh, there's a whole spectrum of possibilities in this tension of two things. And that's what really opens up the space for consciousness, is when we employ full spectrum thinking. As you're saying, it's not just two possibilities, it's all these possibilities. It's both a blessing and a curse, right? It's like, oh man, there's so many choices, but I can't even make one choice. Well, this is where the higher guidance guides us. So it leads us to a structure rather than anarchy. Anarchy in our lives. Yeah.
I think it's better to make a wrong choice faster than not to make a choice at all. Because at least you're moving somewhere.
Yeah.
You'll learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Then there's the opportunity to break out of that holding pattern. If you're just stuck in this, you see a lot of people in this holding pattern. Well, I could do this, I could do that. You talk to them a week later and they're still in the same indecision. It's like
trying to make a perfect decision when you don't know the outcome, and you can't know the outcome until you choose.
Exactly. Choose, take a step, and see what comes to meet you on the road. Because life will respond to your choice.
Being receptive to, when you take that step, staying aware so you see what happens when you do.
Yeah, this is how manifestation works. You make a choice, you make a step. Life is designed to reflect back to you exactly tailor-made response to your choice. So you're absolutely right, Ray. Make a move. It's better to make a wrong move than just to sit like a bump on the log forever, not wanting to take risks and really not evolving, stagnating. And really
it sucks because you said the word right there, stagnating, because then all these things come in and start eating at you and stuff, all these thoughts, and it really can become like a sewer, if you're just staying still like that. At least that's been my experience.
And that's exactly what the evil forces want. Laura?
Earlier today, I mentioned to someone, I referenced John Maxwell's quote about becoming, being a river instead of a reservoir. And then, you're speaking to, the reservoir becomes stagnant, and then a pool that collects and grows that which we don't desire, the mosquitoes and the pests that then can suck our blood and become vampiric in essence, compared to the river that is flowing. So it kind of reminds me of the Consciousness of Abraham channeled through Esther Hicks, that talks about going downhill or downstream instead of trying to fight against the current of going upstream, or trying to hold your position in a rushing river.
Exactly. Reminds me of that song by Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Go down gambling. Go down gambling. Life isn't meant to be safe. If you make a really bad blunder and you die, you're going to get a chance to come back and live it better the next time. At least that's the premise of karma.
Right, just
Yes, Amir.
it's more of a general question. So, how are we supposed to use everything that we've learned so far for actually manifesting what we want to manifest in the future? So, based on what we've learned, we're trying to basically understand what's in the unconscious, why we're manifesting what we're manifesting, but not necessarily like what we want to bring to life in our lives. How are we using the oscilloscope for that, for the future purposes?
Okay, I'm just trying to understand your question first. How are we to use the information we're getting from an oscope
Yeah,
now or in the future?
or manifesting what we want to manifest in life in
Right.
general.
Well, part of my thing is that you have to know where you are on the map in order to know how to get where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
This is why self-knowledge is very important, to have a sense of where you are on the map. If you're in Winnipeg and want to get to Ottawa, but you think you're in Toronto, then you're going to have a hard time getting to Ottawa because you're not really where you think you are. And this is why the oscope is an important modality to provide self-knowledge, so you're not fooling yourself about where you are and what you think you're capable of. And you're also seeing your blind spots, and you're also seeing your shadow side, and you're also seeing where dark forces may have a bit of an upper hand, misleading you, potentially misleading you even in what you think you want to manifest. People think they know where they are. They think they know what they want to manifest. There's different kinds of knowledge. There's what you know, then there's what you don't know, and then there's what you think you know, and then there's what you think you don't know, and then there's what you don't know you don't know. Right? You got it? So self-knowledge is tricky, and the oscope is meant to take care of that to a large degree. If you really want to take this up as a modality, this is not a one-off thing. Obviously I'm passionate about it, and I would say, okay, get on this thing, learn it. I mean, some of you, you're just learning it, you're just cracking it open now. But if you want to learn it and practice it and do as I've done hundreds of oscopes with other people and with myself, because it serves these needs that you're asking about, Amir, and I think it really serves the human need for self-knowledge in a direct and helpful way. So there's no fooling ourselves. Most people are fooling themselves, and they're under the illusion of what they are. So you have to know where you are on the map first.
Yeah, what about the role of desire in all of this? Like, all right, so I understand we want to unpack our shadows. We want to bring light to our dark side, 100%. Yeah, that's automatically it's going to guide us towards our dharmic path, right? And then there's the desire, right? I want to have certain things. And whether it's money, like whatever it is. And it's not necessarily bad for us, right? What I'm not understanding from this is that, all right, I know where I am, and versus where I want to be. All right, so what are the next steps? Like how am I using this knowledge for that?
Well,
and the role of the desire. Like
desire, desire. You've been in the Tantra class, and we've talked about desire as the driver.
Yeah.
Desire is the driver. The word desire means of the stars. Desire is a cosmic force. Desire runs through everything. Even, astrophysics, there's something of this cosmic desire that's driving everything. But desire can drive us down into the ground, or it can drive us back up to our cosmic connection. You see people that want to manifest $1 million, or people that won the lottery and they won $10 million, and it drives them down into the ground. Look at the statistics. That kind of wealth, power can kill people. So we want to connect to our cosmic desire, the manifestation of cosmic desire, and not just strictly mammalian desires to be fulfilled. That will drive us into the ground. So we have to drive the driver of desire. We have to be in the driver's seat of desire. And for Dorothy, it was about getting home. That was her number one desire, was to get back home. And that can be what we want to identify with, to get back home. But of course that raises the question, what is home? And that's what you're going to be reading about this coming week in the last 2 chapters of the book. Coming home to yourself. Creating the home for yourself. Not going back into the past thinking, home for me is back in Kansas on the farm with Uncle Henry and Auntie Em, and it's all so sweet and simple. No, it was drying up, shriveling up. It was an illusion to think that that is home. So, we have to get clear in our mind where we are really ultimately wanting to go. And sure, along the way, we'll get a nice apartment, we'll get the money we need. These things will also be part of the package. But it's back to the geometry. It's back to the geometry, that image of the lemniscate weaving up to this point at the top, which I call also not only self-realization, it's the apex of understanding. The apex of understanding, where you really understand life, how it works, where things are trying to go, and you get on board with that, in alignment with that, which means Dharma. That's what Dharma is.
What I really like is the Kabbalistic say we want to become a better vessel, because what becoming a better vessel, which means dealing with our shadows, we expand the vessel and then magic happens. Basically, we manifest tenfold, so much beyond what we expect.
And there's the vessel there. There's the vessel there. And it even is similar to the Merkaba. Right? The Merkaba is 2 intersecting tetrahedrons. That's basically what this is the Merkaba. We've been talking about that in the Tantra class. And that's what Merkaba means. It's really a vessel or vehicle that's spiritual. So, why don't we take a break? I think we're at that point. Thank you all for sharing and being vulnerable as to some of your inner experiences. This is a learning lab, and we can learn from each other's journeys. So it's helpful to hear. And I learned a lot over the weekend. I facilitated 2 Oz scopes, one with Karen, one with Armita. Neither of them are here today, but they both gave me permission to share about their Oz scopes. And it was interesting with Karen, there was actually resistance between her lion, scarecrow, and Tin Man to come together. They felt like they were going to lose their freedom by joining with someone else, that they would lose their identity somehow, being absorbed into someone else. And so there was actually this fragmentation between these 3 soul capacities. And it kind of explained, why things are going on in a certain way for Karen at this time. And with Armida, it was interesting how she found herself in this castle with the wizard, and it really was a representation of men in her life, the male people in her life, including her father and boyfriend, and her relationship to them in Kansas, how she had been a certain way with men in her life, and that was showing up in the way that the wizard was presenting itself in the oscope. And so that was helpful for her to see that. It really affirmed what she's working with in herself, in her life at this time. So I wanted to just briefly look at one more chapter here that was part of the reading assignment this past week. Chapter 16, called Frequently Asked Questions. I'm just going to read them and see if one or more jumps out for you, and we can look at that. Because these are frequently asked questions that I've heard over the years, and I heard them when I was first starting out, so I put them in the book. And they come up again and again. See if they come up for you. First question: I don't like the Wizard of Oz. Perhaps this approach won't work for me. Do you have to like the Wizard of Oz for it to work? I don't know if I can take the Ozscope seriously. Working with a fairy tale seems a bit childish. I feel a little silly. Well, yeah. Maybe people find working with a fairy tale isn't professional enough for their psychological life. The Wizard of Oz doesn't appeal to me as much as European fairy tales. Perhaps the Ozscope isn't for me. Yeah, the Wizard of Oz is more of an American fairy tale, and there's hundreds of European fairy tales that have different kind of flavor to them. I worked a lot with the Lord of the Rings characters when I was doing a lot of therapy, and I actually watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and all that imagery came up in kind of an Ozscope situation when I was doing therapy, and it was really, really interesting, really, really helpful. So, you're not bound to just work with the Wizard of Oz. I feel drawn to work with a fairy tale other than the Wizard of Oz. Can I still use the principles of the Ozscope? Well, yes, you can. What if images from other than the Wizard of Oz enter while using the Ozscope? And that happens from time to time. It's not the 7 Oz characters. Something else comes in. That's what happened with Armida. With Armida, in the middle of the Ozscope, her inner warrior came in, and so did her inner feminine. She recognized the presence of those things in the Ozscope, and that's fine. We just worked with them. When I go into the Ozscope, the movie images are the ones that I see. How can I change that? Yeah, people often see the movie images because they've seen the movie and that's what's most present for them, but we're not bound to just stick with the movie images. Part of the work can be to change those images. That can be part of the alchemical inner work, is to change those images. I had one woman, she had Glinda, kind of the bubble witch, and that didn't really resonate for her, so she ended up transforming her Glinda into having blue jeans on and kind of more down to earth as a representation of this wise, higher aspect. What kind of guidance can I expect in the Ozscope? How do I know if the information I get is reliable? I am not confident about interpreting the scenarios that come. Will I become disconnected from this world if I turn my focus inward to the other world? Do any of these questions resonate for you? Or do you have
There was a.
different questions?
I read an FAQ. You got a question. What did L. Frank Baum know? That
Yes.
one is kind of intriguing to me.
Well, Jeremy's asking what did L. Frank Baum know, and that's the reading for this week
Okay.
in the appendix. Because in one of this week's reading, okay, so the home play assignment is reading the last two chapters, 11 and 12, and the appendices. There's two appendices. So 2 chapters, 2 appendices is the home play. The other thing I wanted to look at in the book, it's where you get into the long guide for the Ozscope. The long guide for the Ozscope. At the very beginning, it's called Starting Slow. Because some people, they're not used to this. They're not used to closing their eyes, visualizing things. So to start slow, you could really just have a conversation with a person and just ask them what they think about this story. You know, a good Bruce
Yeah.
or anybody here. If I were to put that question,
Life is like, this path. We have to walk our path on life. And, so like the yellow brick road is pretty like, that's, quote, the path. That seems like a really obvious kind of, analogy for life. And along the way, we meet all these different characters. Sometimes it's scary. There's tears. Like, it's, it's life. And there's, scary characters. There's helpful characters. There's sort of relationships between people. And all of that is really reflected in our own lives, it seems.
Okay, so, all right, this is great. We're getting into a conversation here. So I could take the next step and say, Ray, okay, so how this path of life with these things, how's that going for you?
Man, I'll tell you, like, sometimes it's really magical, and it seems like the golden bricks of the Yellow Brick Road are just sparkling in such a beautiful way. And then, sometimes it's like that scene where, all of a sudden things are getting darker, the trees are looking kind of creepy, and you just feel like there's something brewing, where like you start to just feel like something's coming down the pike, man. I don't know what it is. I have an eerie feeling.
You have that sense now? Do you have like an eerie feeling something's coming down the pipe now?
No.
What's your sense now in terms of this Oz scenario?
Oh, wow. My sense is that I feel like I've got all my characters like kind of all walking along at that part where they all kind of like join arms and start skipping down the Yellow Brick Road together, and they're all there just maybe before the danger is coming, but in my life there's been those moments, where I can look back and I've gone through those dark forests and stuff before. Right now, I don't feel like there's a dark forest coming, and my perspective on the dark forest has also changed as I've gone through many dark forests.
Okay, so let me just mirror a bit of that. So right now you feel like you got your characters together to some degree. You've got them all linked arm in arm going down the Yellow Brick Road. You know that there are dark forests ahead. You've encountered them before, but you're not feeling like something's pending right now in terms of having to face a dark forest. Yeah. So, and they all feel equal? The like the Dorothy, Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion. They all feel like they're in a line, equal.
Yeah, they were all like lined up, linked in arms.
Okay, if I were to ask, is there one that feels a little weaker than the others? Who would it be? First thought.
Well, I would say weakness, like the Tin Man part of me can kind of get a little rusty kind of easily, like a little too teary. I think taken over by by melancholy a little bit, and so yeah, he gets a little rusty pretty quickly. Suddenly you're like, oh, Tin Man, are you okay, bro?
Okay, all right. So this is great. We're just starting slowly here. You haven't closed your eyes. We're not doing full-on Ozscope. We're having conversation, and we're getting a sense of how you see yourself within the context of this allegory of these Oz characters. That the Tin Man is, one that needs some attention. Just, everything you said there. Anything else that comes to mind? Well,
I was gonna say, there's this beautiful, there's a higher love that's in me that's more like Glinda, that's kind of it's both at the same time more grounded and more light. And so the Tin Man is really representing, for me, in this, getting rusty and stuff, is just, an over-emotionality or, an over-identification with, with emotion, with emotional states, just getting a little too caught up. But when I think into, how much I love and, my heart space and, what the Tin Man represents in this class and everything, I was thinking, but there's so much lightness and joy in my heart as well. That's really, and I was like, oh, that's more like Glinda, though.
Okay, so let me mirror that. You've mentioned the Tin Man and, rusting and, getting from being too teary and stuff like that. That's maybe more of a manifestation of the human love, but you feel a higher love. You feel a higher love that is represented by Glinda. And she's kind of the one that lifts it up, lifts the Tin Man up, lifts all of them up to really a higher octave manifestation of their potential.
Yes, exactly. It's like the Glinda, when reflecting about the higher states of love that I feel, Glinda came in and was there for sure in the picture. And I like what you said about him raising up the Tin Man, sort of. Yeah, it's kind of like a higher octave of the Tin Man archetype. Is all of them are in her, but yeah, that higher love that I feel, it's not. It doesn't bring me down. It's very grounded. It's very graceful. And there's even
Can I just interrupt there for a second?
Holding.
I just want
There's
to.
a holding for there's room for all of my emotions, but they're held with such grace.
Okay, so this is great. This is really helpful, Ray, in demonstrating starting slow. Where in this conversation, you've really, I would say, got more clarity on what this Glinda archetype represents and holds for you, and for all the rest of the characters in you. That she is that part that, holds the higher ideal and is wanting to guide Dorothy, Tin Man, Lion, Scarecrow to a higher manifestation of their potentials. So, is that right? Does it feel like you have greater clarity on the Glinda in you? That's there in the story.
Yes, that Glinda is holding a higher ideal. That's a really great way to put it. And thanks for putting words to the feeling, like the inner sense I was getting around. Oh, but Glinda is like loving, but it's different. It's the higher ideal, and it doesn't get bogged down by the lower states of emotionality that can kind of feel confusing or overwhelming.
Emotionality of the Tin Man, or the will of the lion, or the thinking of the scarecrow. That they have also a lower octave, and that's not going to be helpful for our manifestation if you're just coming through with that lower end thinking, lower end feeling, and lower end willing. And then
and they can trigger each other. Like if the Tin Man is like, getting bogged down, he might kind of like not treat the other part, like the lion or the thinking, like very well, or not tend to that, like they don't. The integration falls apart a little bit when one goes kind of out of balance. It really can send the others out of balance as well.
Great, Ray. Thank you so much. I want to just cap it there. So that was a great example of how you can make progress with this without doing a full-on half-hour Ozscope. You just sit in conversation with a person and let them talk about it and see what they connect to, see what they resonate with, see how they see it. And that is getting into it.
I think someone had their hand up.
Okay, did someone have a hand up here?
Yes, I did.
Plage, yes, please.
Oh yeah. Okay, so my question is I have two questions that I would like to have clarity on. The first one has to do with Dorothy. Is it possible that Dorothy could be because she met the Tin Man and the Lion and the Scarecrow as she's traveling through her journeys? Is it possible that she could be? These are all characters of Dorothy as she's growing, as she's traveling, and she's trying to figure out who she is as a person, and she's learning about these characters about herself as she's traveling the yellow brick road. And Toto is her. Oh, you said Toto was um her wild side, a wild side to her. So, I mean, could all this be, experiences that Dorothy is actually going through, and she's looking to find her way home as she's looking to find her way home? That was one of my questions.
Yeah, right on.
And the other would be yeah, and the other would be speaking on manifestation. We also talked about you talked about earlier, it depends on what you put into the world and where you put your life, and you expect things to come back at you in a manifestation way. It depends on what you give to the world. So my question is, okay, I get that. We all would like great things to come back. We exude positivity. But my concern is, what about the people in the world that does not, and they exude negativity? And what kind of negativeness do they get back as a manifestation? Like, not that I want to know because I exude positivity. I try to, but like, how do those people deal with that sort of I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if you can help me out here.
It's a good point, really, because there is an interplay between negativity and positivity. And if I can reduce it right down to the battery on your car, you have these two poles that work together. And that's, of course, electricity, but you're talking, in a spiritual sense. But the analogy applies that in a way, we need negativity. Just like we need the Wicked Witch. And I had that come through, for example, in a mini Oscope last week, where Dorothy came into the scene, and then Dorothy left the frame, and the Wicked Witch came in hovering, very negative, wicked. Dorothy came back, and she had to exude this positivity to hold her space with this Wicked Witch hovering there with negativity. And the negativity actually enhanced her positivity. And I'm continuing to hold that as an image for my inner Dorothy to stay strong in my positivity, even in the face of negativity, because the world is negative. And that's just the nature of the world, is this negativity. I don't think we'll ever completely change the negativity of the world, but we can stand with positivity and grow our positivity. You know, it's like one hand pushing against another to grow stronger, right? It has to have some resistance. So keep on being positive, Paige. I could see you're a positive person, but you've probably had to face negativity in your life, no doubt. Oh, you have to
all the time.
all the time. I know, but I love that. It's part of the game. You know, like
Yeah.
even this building here, often there can be negativity amongst the tenants and whatnot. It's gotten better because I've tried to really exude positivity. I step out my door and I just like have to make a conscious decision. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to meet negativity. People will start gossiping, backbiting, this, and it's like, how can I not get sucker punched by negativity? And it strengthens me. So, you know, this is life.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
She hit her first question.
The first question? Oh, yeah, your first question was.
The three.
The three parts. Yeah, they're parts of Dorothy. They're definitely parts of Dorothy. The Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion are her really her cognitive capacities of thinking, feeling, and willing. And they're the parts of you. You're thinking, feeling, and willing that manifested physically as a brain, a heart, and our metabolic reproductive organs. They're the physical manifestation of these cognitive capacities. So yeah, we got to take care of them. We got to keep them balanced and centered. Ray, you got your hand up?
I have a question. I was thinking about like that question, brother, what ails thee? And
Yes.
I was wondering, in the context of the Oz scope, you know, where a question like that might fit in to address some of this negativity problem. If you have any insight on that, or if there's anything that I'm missing around that, because it's like all within the self, all these characters, but yeah. So would that? Can we apply that question to our parts?
Yeah. Well,
Like the Wicked Witch, or
you could be manifesting scenarios in your life that are bringing negativity to you. That you create situations of negativity so that you can work on aspects of yourself. You create, like Dorothy did. She created this situation in Kansas. The Toto part, you know, went and bit Miss Gulch on the ankle when Miss Gulch was trying to hit Toto on the back with a rake because Toto had chased her cat. So, in a way, Dorothy manifested that negative situation with Miss Gulch so that
By
she...
chasing her cat. By her wild part, Toto chasing the cat. That was the trigger.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just say that she actually created that negativity. Why would you create negativity?
So something happens.
Well, yeah. So that she could deal with her own shadow side. And as I said earlier, shadow side being the unconscious parts of ourselves, the unconscious power. So when she went to Oz, she faced the inner manifestation of Miss Gulch, which was the Wicked Witch of the East, played by the same actress, Miss Gulch.
Hey, you look familiar.
Yeah.
West, you mean.
Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that, negativity was able to produce positivity and power. So don't run from negativity. Don't hide from it. Learn how to deal with it with positivity. It's tricky, because everything's trying to get us sucker punched, and we're always being baited by the world. Like someone will come up and say, "Oh, that Trump is such a moron." Negativity, negativity, negativity. And I'm learning to just say nothing and have no opinion. I don't get drawn in to talking negatively or, hating on this or hating on that. I am really surprised how so much of the world, intelligent, educated, even highly spiritual people, have been tricked into hating. Holding hate in their hearts. They profess to be spiritual, devoutly religious, and yet they hold hate in their hearts. Completely tricked. Blind to this fact. That they've been tricked to holding hate in their hearts.
I know, there's so much hatred for that one man. It's kind of crazy.
Well, that man, it could be like...
However.
It could be, certain people living in part of India hating people who live in another part of India.
Exactly.
Hate knows no boundaries.
Or people hating themselves and not realizing.
Yeah. So it's the negativity. It's how the world has this negativity by default that we have to overcome.
So like when someone, in my Kansas, I have someone that I care about, and they kind of like bark at me or super like respond to me in some kind of a negative way, sort of out of the blue. And my heart's open to these people because I trust. There's like openness, and then all of a sudden there's like a dagger there, and you're just like, whoa. But that does wake things up in me, like
yes. It wakes things up in you. Spiritual awakening. What does it wake up in you, Ray?
Well, recognizing that I'm not seeing people clearly, maybe. Like I'm not seeing actually where they are on their own development, and I'm more like seeing where I would like them to be, or not seeing them clearly, and having expectations that aren't they're just maybe not capable of fulfilling.
How could you change that to see people more clearly?
Well, to see others more clearly, it's seeing myself more clearly. Like I think
I'll give you a hint.
Oh, okay. You have an answer for this one.
It's a bit of a rhetorical question. You want to see people more clearly. You would like them to see themselves more clearly. Offer them an oscope.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah, and there's what I'm noticing a lot is there is a lot of crustiness around all of us. I'd say,
Yeah,
like
but let me just finish.
rigidity.
Let me just finish because this is a big point here. Is you
Okay.
know, I'm very adamant about how the Oscope can produce clear self-knowledge. So you could offer an Oscope to a person, and that could be life-shifting for them. What comes through, you could see it more clearly where they're at. But you know what? You can do an Oscope for a person without them doing the Oscope. What I mean is that you do an Oscope with the intention of seeing their inner Oz. This is an untapped thing. This is huge, in fact, and I'm just kind of birthing this idea as I speak, is that you could go into the Dreamtime and have the intention that the images that come actually represent the other person, not you.
Yeah.
So you can see what their Tin Man looks like. You can see what their Dorothy looks like, where she's at. You could see how the Wicked Witch is playing into it. You could see if Glinda's present or not in that person's life.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You do an
Yeah.
Oscope for somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the experience that I had was very enlightening to that effect, and I feel like I've been traversing this Oz landscape, and I really came to some like amazing realizations that were very beneficial. And so it's not bad. Like it's the negativity was positive, just difficult.
I was half considering doing an Oscope, but it seems like people are a little bit tired and maybe we'll start winding down. But I also wanted to check in for people that did Oscopes this past week. I know Jeremy and Amir did one this afternoon. Do you guys either of you want to share a piece that came from that?
Well, I can talk about mine, and
Yeah.
Amir can feel free to share whatever he wants from his perspective. But I think, well, I think we may have been a little bit rushed. But I basically saw like the lion and the wizard, and they were like having a great time. And
The Lion and the Wizard are having a great time? Is that a good thing?
they're having a great time, and it was felt like an allegory for my cannabis addiction, and the what's happening there with the illusion of I guess pleasure and satisfaction, and yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that.
On my willpower, yeah.
That's huge. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think about this a lot, in the way that cannabis, caffeine, alcohol, these things have become normative in our culture. And I've seen the legalization of cannabis take place, in my lifetime, and how it's become normative, and the destructive side of it. Obviously it's an herb of the field that's given by nature and by God for healing, and it has its place. All these things do. But
not at 30% THC by volume. That's not how
yeah,
it's
this is
ridiculous.
human tampering in a way that's has become destructive to people's lives, even in subtle ways. The interesting thing about cannabis, I discovered recently doing some research, is that it keeps you keeps you in the beta state of brain frequency, but it also brings in the theta, which is more in like the deep sleep state. So this is why cannabis can be so seductive, is that it'll keep you awake, but also go deep to access things that you wouldn't normally access when you're just in beta. Get beta and theta together. And that might be good for a reset. Like that kind of keeps you awake, doesn't put you unconscious, and allows for deeper access. But so does the oscope. Doing the oscope is beta and theta. It's dream time while you're awake. It's waking dreaming. So, but that's beautiful. The image of the lion, that's the will. That's the deepest part of our mind, and the wizard just flying around in his balloon. Anything else you want to say to that?
That's pretty much all it was. Because it was quite brief, but that was basically it. They weren't in a balloon, they were just having a great time. Like, they were just laughing, and, like, it was the vibe.
Okay. And you discerned that was a mirror reflection of cannabis addiction?
Yes.
Okay. Because it looks like a party, but did you see how it's impacting Scarecrow, Tin Man, Dorothy? That'd be something to explore further.
I think it's affecting the lion. I think the Scarecrow has gotten a lot of benefit from that medicine in my lifetime, but the lion has not.
Okay. Yeah, I can attest to that. I know when I started smoking cannabis at in my teens, it did wake up my Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Definitely woke up my Scarecrow and my thinking. I stopped when I got to 20 because it's like, okay, like I think I got what I need. I just, I felt my Glinda. I felt my Glinda saying, okay, you can't continue just, smoking daily. This stuff. It'll reverse the positive effects. That's great, and it doesn't have to be a long thing. You said it was short, but sometimes just a snapshot of something coming to the conscious mind. Write it down, draw it, live with it, and let it work upon you. Doesn't mean you have to go out and force yourself to stop, but let that work upon you, and bring about whatever metamorphosis is wanting to come. I would recommend more oscopes, because obviously these sorts of messages want to come from a deeper place within you. And that's what's going to help you more than anything. The messages from within. There's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change your life. It's really, because oscopes are self-diagnostic tools, right? It's self-diagnostic, you're diagnosing yourself, and it's also self-prescription. You're getting a prescription out of this, which is so much more powerful than going to some so-called expert or authority who's going to diagnose you and prescribe something.
And you're also the pharmacist.
And you're also the pharmacist. And you're also the patient. Fantastic, Jeremy. That's really great. Amir, did you want to say anything about yours? You don't have to, but
Not really, honestly. Like this was like a 2 minute session for us to go through it. There's no way in 2 minutes I get to beta and
yeah.
that state of mind. So there was the only thing that it's in my conscious mind was more as of lately. It's something that I do a lot of practices as I'm aware of. Maybe it came because I'm paying a lot of attention to that. Is the closest I can get is the Glinda, because I've been asking for certain things from the higher self and not being receiving an answer for. The cosmic GPS signal is not,
Not strong.
been strong in certain areas. But
You've
again,
been trying
I'm
to
not
get
very
connected to Glinda? Is that what you said? You've been trying to get connected to this Glinda aspect?
Yeah, but it was more of like, okay, be Glinda, but I'm not, again, as you know, I've not really been really relating to this metaphorical idea of the scope. I understand it as a whole. I understand different characters and all that, but whether I'm seeing images on how they're talking to each other, playing all this things, I don't get any of that stuff.
Well, we should do like a
So
starting slow conversation the way I did with Ray, like that would be a good way to do it. It's like take 10, 15, 20 minutes and have conversation and see what comes from the unconscious that way without trying to close your eyes and see things.
I'm surprised actually, as part of the frequently asked questions, there wasn't a question about what are people that are not so visual on like I I'm not the only one who I'm not seeing things necessarily based on because I've shared this with others and I've heard I got the same feedback.
You're right. It
Was very
should be a
surprised.
question. It should be a question.
It should be the first question, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because this is very. It tends to be more visually oriented. This whole thing, but
Yeah.
there is. I mean, with the conversation I had with Ray, it wasn't so visual. It was really more just thoughts, ideas, feelings.
I like that. I connect to that a lot more.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, let's do
Yeah.
that.
Because yeah, there's a lot I can talk about that stuff, but the metaphorical side of it, like seeing characters playing to each other, talking to each other, having all
Well,
these downloads, I don't connect to that.
it's still metaphorical. It's still talking, allegorically, but you don't have to be receiving dream images in the dream time. So, and that's valid. That's completely valid. You're wired more that way. So, if you're going to do another dyad with someone, then just talk about things. You're talking about your root chakra a lot these days. So, that's kind of more the lion. You could talk about your root chakra and how the lion is manifesting from the root chakra, and see if the penny drops in that.
Mm.
Yeah, but we'll get together. We'll do some of this.
Also, like one question I have about the reason we're doing this very metaphorically, is it that you're expecting we receive downloads in our dream time? Like they show up at some point and give us some messages? Is that
Well, it did
why?
for Jeremy. I would say that was a download.
No, but he's talking about Dreamtime, like actual.
I'm talking about the dream time because we talked about dream time. We really didn't really talk about. I mean, it's in the title, but we haven't really talked about the dream time.
No, this is all. The oscope is in the dream time.
Oh, you're not talking about like actual sleep dreaming.
No, we're talking about waking dreaming.
Waking dream. Right.
When I did psychedelics, that's in the dream time. That's waking dreaming. You're in that in between state between
Got it.
fully awake to your senses and the outer world and being completely asleep and fully in the other world, and you're unconscious of it. The dream time is this middle space, the bindu in yoga, where you maintain some consciousness. It's really more in that alpha theta state where there's a flow coming from the unconscious into the conscious, and you're present to it. It's not like you have a dream and then you wake up in the morning and you have to remember the dream. You're present to it with consciousness.
And I'm curious, like, do people actually see these characters in their dreams, like this, since they've been doing
Yeah.
dieting? Is this something that's commonly?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Oz characters can show up in your night dreams. Yeah.
Cool.
Just keep plugging away, one brick at a time on the yellow brick road.
We'll get there, man.
Yeah. Look, we're all somewhere along the way. We're all somewhere along the way. We just got to figure out where that is. And this week we're going to be looking at where it goes. with chapter 11 and 12, the last two chapters of the book. Read those, read the two appendices. And who would like to be paired up for doing an Ozscope with someone? Peace and love to us all. Thank you, friends and Ozites. Have a great week.
In Kansas.
See you in Kansas.
It's like home.